Carrie Smith.
And I'm Emma Skip, and welcome to It's a Death Sentence.
This is a podcast that takes a lighter look at the heavier things.
So, if you want some of this... So somebody could have been dead for a week and end up with you.
Or maybe longer, and somebody might have said, oh, there's a really bad smell.
A little bit of this.
I haven't got a tissue. I'll get one. You got one. And plenty of this.
So original. Fucking hell. Then this is the show for you. Because
Life,
it's a death sentence.
Welcome to It's a Death Sentence, Emma. My lovely guest today is Emma Skip.
Hi.
Emma, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
I can. So I've been a singer all of my life. And more recently, I've been not a very well person, so I've had to take a break, which has been very challenging. I'm a mother of two. I'm divorced. I mean, I could
Single
go on
and ready to mingle.
Single and ready to mingle.
I'm not sure this is
had
a
a
podcast
counselling
for you.
session this morning. He told me to just be accepting of who I am right now, and I was like, okay. But yeah, I'm really interested in what you're doing, Carrie, and I think that this will be quite a journey to go on. I'm looking forward to it.
So how does death make you feel?
Oh, really good, generally.
Cold.
Yeah. It makes me have a lot of different feelings. So I lost my mom 10 years ago this June, and it is absolutely unfathomable to me that that's happened still. I've also in the position where, like lots of other people, I've lost friends to accidental death and suicide, but I think it's something really significant when you lose a parent when they're still relatively young. So my mum was 60, I was 32, my sister was 24, something like that.
Yeah, it's young.
Very young. And I'm quite a philosophical person, so I grew up with a very open line of communication with both of my parents around death. And it definitely brought me to a place where I understood it more just on a very sort of natural basis. But nothing will ever equip you for the moment, you're delivered the death sentence.
Absolutely.
Which in my mum's case was very much accurate. They said it took a long time to be diagnosed, and then they said she had 5 years and they changed her mind the following day. And they said she had a year, and she lived a year to that day.
Wow. Can you remember your first experience of death, though?
Yeah,
I mean, I know your mum.
Yeah. We have a baby in our family, so I'll be cautious here and leave it there. That was ironically the first person I knew to die.
And how old were you when that happened?
About 13 and 14, yeah. So that was the first funeral I ever went to.
Did you understand what was going on at that age?
Yeah. I'd visited them in hospital when they were born and they were unwell, and it was not looking good, but then they did survive a year. But I was very young, and on reflection, for that to be your first visual experience of death is very strange, because coffins are supposed to be big and with adults in them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're supposed to be big with old adults in them. They're not supposed to be carried by one person.
So sad.
I can't begin to imagine what it was like for them, but even just the knock-on effect with our immediate and then extended family. So that was, my first experience was that. And then my nan, who I wasn't particularly close to, we got a sort of estranged, like, extended family. But my dad, bless him, has just lost everybody in his life. Like, it's unreal. And he is so pragmatic about death whilst being hugely emotional. He's really inspiring. So he's very accepting of it. Just on reflection, talking about this child, he went to see him in the chapel of rest. And he'll still talk about that, because I think that affected him more because it was a child than any of the adults. So he lost his own father when he was in his 30s, maybe, and his mum, his brother. Like, just went on and on and on. So, and then obviously his wife as well. So my dad, really, bless him, has lost so many people so many, and he's now at an age where he's got Alzheimer's. He's not very well, but obviously then you'd expect somebody in their 70s to start have their own friends drop off, but you wouldn't expect somebody to have a wife at 60 that dies. So, but the way he is amazing. It's quite inspirational because he's very accepting, whilst being not closed off or cold. He's like, that is life. It's part of life, and with there's
I
a
suppose,
number on
though,
your head, isn't there? Basically.
yeah, I suppose after so many losses,
Mm.
each blow makes the next one just
Yeah,
almost expected.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay,
I
this is going
do.
to
Yeah.
happen.
I wonder whether it's a slightly different era as well. So there's probably an expectancy to get on, whereas I think we are in an era now which is a lot better and
Yeah.
more equipped at talking. Could you imagine anybody just sat down having a chat about death even 20 years ago like we are now?
Yeah, very
I
true.
just don't think that we're culturally
We're getting there, though. We're
getting
still
there. Yeah,
not.
it's
We're
it's
still
slow.
not there.
It's slow. I think
A
people
lot
will
of people
avoid
wouldn't
you.
wouldn't talk about death.
Yeah, I found
Yeah.
that when my mum died, and I'm flipping between things here, but when my mum died, I had certain friends that just rang me and were there and were present, which is interesting because my parents brought me up to always say something. Always say something. That was their motto. Don't be the person that shies away. Be the person that's present. Say something, even if you say I don't know what to say. So I was brought up like that. But I remember after my mum dying, certain people in my life, I think they slightly avoided me, and they
People do. It's
and
human
I
nature.
couldn't believe it. I was really perplexed by it because I just thought, how can this be this person that I know really well, who I had this set of expectations about, just didn't deliver them, and then by the same token, had people who just popped up and they were like, I know what's going on for you, I'm here for you,
I
and
think often you find that it's people who have been through something similar
yes,
that
reach out,
reach out and say, I know what you're going through
yeah,
and I'm here,
yeah,
even if it's just for a cup of tea and a chat
yes.
about something irrelevant. I'm
Yes,
here.
I think that's exactly what my parents really tried to instill in me and my sister, is that to be present, and not just for death, but for any kind of rough situation or
Because life is not smooth, is it?
no,
Let's face it.
it's not at all. And I think the older you get as well, the harder and the more frequent it becomes where you find out people are very poorly or they're
I feel like
yeah.
I only ever go out to funerals now. It's like my social
That
life.
and hearing that your mates are getting divorced.
Yeah,
It's just those
divorce
two things.
parties
Yeah,
or
yeah,
funerals,
yeah,
wakes.
yeah.
It's terrible. It's a terrible state of affairs. Experiencing death at such a young age, how do you think it affected your life? Do you think it changed the way you
Yeah.
lived or the I mean,
Well,
obviously your mum was a massive impact, but
I was an adult then. I think so. I've just briefly discussed the first loss in my life, but I actually, in my 20s, lost several people, and a couple were quite significant. So there was the drummer in my first band that I was ever in, and before him, a couple of others in the community I lived in. It's quite a small town. There was an accidental death, and there was a suicide, and then another suicide, and it happened probably between the ages of 21 and 25, just one after the other, just one after the other. But I think on reflection, I had very different views on suicide then to the views I have now, particularly because I used to be very ignorant about, how could anybody possibly do anything like that, especially at our age. They're leaving behind their younger brothers and sisters and this knock-on effect. I don't look at it like that at all anymore because I've experienced it so many times with other people that my belief is that people are not in their right mind and therefore can't be judged in that way. But I think, yeah, I remember once trying to write down a list of the people I've known that are quite close to me that I've lost, and I just couldn't do it. There were just so many, which makes me sound really dreary and morbid. I'm really not as a person, not at all. But I think there's like a residual sadness that just stays with you. I think that's the best way to describe it, is a little piece of every person that you lose that just makes its way into your heart or your body or whatever and
and it
stays
takes
there.
its toll.
Yeah,
The more people that you lose, the older you get.
yeah, yeah.
And it changes the way you think about things.
Oh,
In your
yeah.
20s, you think you're invincible and you've you've got forever, and that will never happen to
Yeah.
you.
You can't. Okay, I lost a friend in uh, again, be cautious about how you say these things, but yeah, an accidental death in our 20s, around the same time as we knew somebody who'd committed suicide. And I remember thinking, she didn't want to go, and he had his choice, and having very
It's anger, isn't it?
conflicting things about it. But I'm at 42 now. The way I view it is so completely different, because I
One
just
can't be
think
judged against
you
the other.
you just can't do it. But I think we're just not very well adapted or versed at talking about it. So the fallout from death for me, personally viewing it, is what it does to everybody that's left behind, more so, because the person that's died, let's face it, they're not coming back. That's it. That's the end of the road for them. It's as cold as that sounds. It's what happens to the people who are left behind. So if you lose a child, or if you lose somebody who's in their 20s, that is so significant for the rest of everybody else's life.
Yeah, massively.
It's hugely significant. What we think about as kids, I think, is like, well, only old people die. The conversations I have with my own children, why did your mom die and why can't you get a new one?
Yeah, wow.
And it's really blunt,
Yeah.
and then they'll cry. And I think, well, they never met her. You then have to then get your adult brain on and try and find a way to make it palatable for children. We, like, culturally, or in our society, we don't have a rule book. Like, nobody really tells you anything.
No, and almost you don't want to give them too much.
Yeah. When I've been really informative with them, and I've said my mom was poorly, and when people get really too poorly, you can't help them, and the body dies, and that's that. And I've been, I've kind of elaborated a bit more, but
Yeah.
that's the premise I've used.
And they've gone, okay.
Yeah, and if you give it to them straight, they might ask a couple more questions, but I think if you try and airy fairy it, or
Yeah, it leaves it too
I'm not
ambiguous.
religious either, so I don't do the heaven and hell thing. But my children go to a religious school, so
Yeah,
they
so
do. So is your
yeah.
mom in heaven? And I'm like, some people think so. That's all I've got to say on
Probably
it.
not.
I'm not really sure. I
Yeah.
actually don't know the answer.
Yeah.
But if I don't, I'm not like a.
And it's okay to admit to them as well that we don't know everything.
Oh no, yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. And my mom, interestingly, when her dad died, I was about 19. She had a really bad relationship with her dad, and she came to my flat and just had a really normal conversation with me. Very eccentric woman, my mother, and then she said, "Oh, by the way, my dad's died."
Just very
just
blasé.
just nonchalant, just dropped that in. But she was in years of therapy because of their relationship, and she said, "Oh, I'm not going to his funeral." And in the end, she went. And I said, "What were your motivation for going?" She said, "Oh, when I did check, it was in the box."
Oh, she needed closure.
I mean, he needed the closure more than
Closing the lid, yeah.
But yeah, it was.
Wow.
So I've had very vocal parents, and that we all know that we're a product of our upbringing, aren't we? Whoever it is
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
brings us up. And I think that kind of a very open, sometimes too open dialogue leaves us with, a very. I'm pretty philosophical, I think, about it. Try to be.
I think that's quite nice, actually.
Well,
coming back to death, what do you think happens when we die?
oh, now this
I know
is
it's a big question.
$1 million question. So there's that film, wasn't there? £7, £7, 7 ounces, something like that. I'm going to totally misquote everything all the time,
Can't
but there's a theory about your soul having a weight, and the moment of death you become lighter. So they've actually tested this, haven't they?
Okay.
It's just fascinating, whether you want to go down that route or not. But so my degree is
I'm hoping that mine's like at least a stone and a half, because
I think one on each breast. And then I'm going for that kind of weight as well.
£7, that's not enough for me. I'm chunky.
They made a film about it. I'm sure they did. It was my mum again that told me about this theory. Well, I did a degree in philosophy, and that asks lots of questions about life and death. But I think for me, the body dies. So then you've got this crossover, haven't you, with religion and everything. But when the body dies, and I view it very organically, as you would a leaf falling off a plant or anything else. It dies. It's matter. And it dies, and it goes back to the earth, and that for me is good enough. I have a lot of questions over the soul, and I don't have the answers. I still have lots of questions, but I think the essence of what makes us us as people. I think there's a possibility it continues in some way.
Do you think it lives on in others?
I
Or
don't
do
know
you
if I
think
go
it
for
lives
straight
on?
reincarnation. I don't know. My
I mean, like,
dad.
I don't mean in reincarnation. I mean like
Oh, it's in like
just
through. Yeah.
through
So
your
my
children
my
and your,
dad really believes this, and that's
yeah,
how he would explain to us when we were younger. Was very much like, well, firstly there's the biological DNA lines, and then there's what you inherit from your different generations, and then there's the storytelling, and this is how we are remembered. It's the legacy
yeah.
we leave. So it's
Who will
biological,
tell your
physical,
story?
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's very palatable, isn't it? When I actually think, what happens in death. I've watched it, watched my mom die, and I just watched an entity disappear over the course of weeks and months or whatever. But really, towards the end, it was quite an eye opener, because it wasn't at all as romanticized as you
oh,
might
it's not
say.
pretty.
Bloody hell, like
It's
I
not
think I had this
pretty.
idea of what it would look like, and I also had this idea of what she would be like.
Like lovely and nice
Lovely and
and
nice and forgiving, and she fucking wasn't at all, at all. My God, I mean, up until she couldn't speak anymore, she was so vocal about how robbed she was.
yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, it was. And now I can sit here and talk about it because I've had 27 weeks of therapy last year, and that's got me to be. I couldn't for a long
yeah.
time. I couldn't have just even speaking about it because we were so close. Yeah, so I think there's the physical. I think the body closes down and starts to do its thing, and it, for me, should go back to the earth in whatever way that is going to happen. Me, I've donated my body to science, so
So you'll come to me.
I'll come to you, Bab.
I'm joking.
And but yeah, I have a lot of questions like about
So
what happens to the
when you,
essence of the
so
person.
the essence of the person, I would categorize as one thing, and then like spirit or soul, I would categorize as
Oh,
something
would
else
you?
personally.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, do you think like, did you have a feeling that she was gone when your mum died, or did you feel that like her spirit was still around,
No,
her soul was still there?
no,
You felt like
and I
she
was
was just gone.
absolutely, totally gutted.
Did you think that you would feel
Yeah,
that her presence
I
still
thought that she would like just
magically put her
appear
hand
to
on your
me.
shoulder,
She'd be like, Emma, this part of your life is really stressful, and like, I don't know, somehow
sit on the end
be
of your bed?
present. But you know what? She fucking died, and she didn't come back in any capacity for me at all.
And
It
did
was.
you want to see
Yes, I
something?
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think up until recently, like I still dream about her, but she was really angry at me in my dreams. I would imagine her everywhere, and that would just make me inconsolably sad. Yeah, I had this notion that she would, this whole romantic idea about when we watch films or read books and stuff when we were younger, that they stay with you and they stay present, and I just have not had that experience in any capacity.
What about psychics and people who
Oh, I've got some good stories. I mean,
people who
you do go down that route.
yeah,
I did. I mean, me and my
I think
sister,
that's natural.
we
People
went to a
do.
woman who said some things about our mom, right, that was so grossly inaccurate that it was
Laughable,
so funny.
was it?
We had to sit. She was crazy, like head to foot in purple, like, and she was saying things. She's oh, your mom was a very glamorous woman. Like, for anyone that ever met my mom, she was not glamorous. She was like hippy dippy, weird patterns on her shoes, bit of a waft of Hessian about her. Do you know what I mean? And definitely, like, she was just very glamorous, and I can smell her perfume, and I was thinking she didn't give a shit about any of that. And you're lucky if she ever wore makeup.
Yeah.
So, but that said, because you've asked me, like, and it's a personal reaction to it, I have also had experiences with people who are psychic, not necessarily to do with death, where it's made me really catch my breath and thought, oh my God, like,
How
what?
did they know that?
There is just, unless they're like the Derren Browns of the world, where they just learn to read people's faces or
Yeah.
whatever. I just think, you know, there's some people are gifted, but my dad always said to me, well, some people can play the piano by ear, so why couldn't you be clairvoyant? They're just equally as phenomenal as each other.
Oh, God, I love your dad already.
Yeah, he's a very wise man, but he's lost the plot. Bless him. He retired on the day my mom died. You couldn't write it, could you?
Oh.
And she was the boss, so he didn't know what to do with himself. And I think for a lot of people who've lost a parent, it will resonate with them, because
Yeah.
they'll know if the lead parent, let's say, I mean, like, there is always a sort of lead,
Yeah,
isn't there, in
there's
any
always.
relationship? If that one goes, the other really struggles, and that's definitely the
Yeah, and
case.
then that sometimes fractures the relationship between the parent that's left and the children.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
can be difficult because
massive.
they're
I think
grieving
it's
as
just this
well.
huge role reversal.
Yeah.
Like, you're the parent to dad overnight, just like that.
So do you believe in it then, or you sitting on the fence?
I think there are a
Frauds.
lot of charlatans. Yeah, I think there's lots of people who will take advantage of those that have suffered grief, and they ought to be slapped around a bit. I don't know. We shouldn't take advantage of people.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that in the world generally, but I am not. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm sitting on the fence. I'm definitely not against the idea. I don't want to be visited by any spirits, so don't
No.
get any ideas. This house is nice, right? No
Yeah.
one is welcome here, especially like dead things floating around. I'm not into
Yeah.
that.
I hope I've left mine in the car. My spirit.
Well, yeah, I mean, they probably hang on to you for a bit, don't
Yeah.
they?
No, probably not actually, because
Oh,
it's not a very nice place to be. Is it, the mortuary?
you know, they
Um.
might really
Yeah.
like you. Might really warm to you. Think
Yeah.
she's nice.
She's
I want to
warm.
go.
She's the only thing that's warm
I'm
here.
going home with her. She's having a takeaway.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
like
yeah.
you. I don't want to be frightened by anything.
No, and we're brought up to associate it with being frightening as well.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if somebody loved you who's died, why would they come and scare you?
Funnily, I'm not scared at work ever.
No, but I
And I
imagine,
think if there would be spirits anywhere, they'd be there. There's hundreds of dead people.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I'm not scared, and
I
there
think
isn't.
I think this is like, there's strange phenomena all the time in the world, isn't there? There's things like the string theory, which I know a little bit about, and not a lot, not enough to talk about, but where this concept of time that's passed that sort of still goes on in some capacity. I'm very, very open to all of these ideas. Really am. And I wouldn't dismiss it. In fact, I'd be very interested if somebody said to me, "Yeah, I go to a spiritualist church every week. Do you want to come?" I'd go, 100%.
Give it a go.
Yeah, but when I have been and done some of these things, I've just thought no. And it's
It's
not
not for
because,
me.
well,
Yeah.
it's not because it's not for me. I've just thought, what a load of shit. It's just not been accurate.
Yeah.
So when I've actively sought out a spiritualist or a psychic or a medium or whatever, I've just not had a great experience. But my dad was really into it.
Okay. Now that
This is
surprises me.
an interesting story. So he and my mom went to see one who was famous. She'd written a book and had asked the audience a question, somebody about a woman called Mary, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't mean anything to my dad at the time, but he mentioned it to his brother, and it was the person that nursed his dad.
No
And then my
way.
mom told me that story. So they were both very open to the notion of things being, I don't know,
Not as cut and dry as you think.
otherworldly. Is like, just sounds a bit like, I don't know, it's a rubbish phrase, really, isn't it? But
Or spiritual.
yeah, it's. I don't think we how could we possibly have the answers? We just live on this tiny planet in this massive universe, and people
And
live
that's
live
it.
and die, and that's it. No, I find that hard to believe. Maybe it's because of the ego. We can't believe it.
I always say, maybe I do believe in something, because I always say I think you get back what you give out to people, and I feel like I
100%.
believe in karma
Yeah,
and treating people the way I want to be treated and all that. So
yeah.
I must think of something higher than just
Yeah, and I
this.
think going back briefly, we spoke earlier about religion. That's why I'm not closed off to it. I'm not particularly pro organised religion, but I think so. My mom believed in the universe. She
Yeah.
believed that there was something much more powerful at play than just us, and I really like that. I can get on board with it. Whether I was because I was brought up like it, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
like that idea. If you could find out when you were
Oh,
going to
good
die, would you want to
question.
know?
If when I was going to die, or
Yeah.
oh my god,
If
no,
somebody
no,
said you're going to die on such and such date
no,
in 6 years'
no, I
time,
wouldn't. It's a really good question, but no, I wouldn't. I could end up just an alcoholic really quickly.
you got 60 years, Beth. Oh, because you'd be like, it's all right, I've got 60 years,
Yeah,
guys.
I've always wanted to try that. Let's do it.
Don't worry, because I'm going to go in 60 years.
Yeah,
Jumping
you
off.
lot, however, you only got 15 months. Sorry
Yeah.
about that, friend.
You need that shot more than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start taking up like random sports.
Well, yeah, I think that, yeah.
You'd be dangerous.
Would you? Yeah, well, I'm a risk taker. I always have
Yeah.
been, and that's in my nature. So I think if I had a number and I knew what
And
was
you
going
was
on,
definite.
I was like, right,
Yeah,
what have I
you'd just
wanted
be
to
going
do?
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it was all to go to shit tomorrow and God forbid anything happened to you, how do you think the kids would cope? And obviously your family.
Well,
Having thought that they've gone through so much grief already.
yeah, it's a very poignant question. So I've not been very well for the last year. I was told I'd had a stroke to start with, and then lots of other no one fucking knows, and they just give it a crap title. But you know, there have been times where I've thought I cannot feel this unwell and it not be something serious. So I've really worried that I'm poorly. My mum died young, and I think, oh my God, but touch wood, that isn't the case, and that's good. But yeah, of course you think about it. I think when you've got your own children, you can't help but think about it. My ex-husband lost his mother when he was a child. So our son has just surpassed the age that Dave was when he lost his mum. So I know from being with my ex-husband how significant losing a parent as a child is. And also my best friend, our shared friend, he lost his mum, who I also knew. So, well, I know this much, that when my mum died and when my dad got Alzheimer's and then when I got poorly and I got divorced, I did my will. I know that. And
Got prepared.
I redid it recently to make sure it was bang on. And I, wanted to donate my body to, it's going to the QE in Birmingham. And I've done all the paperwork for it. And people are like, why would you want to do that? How would you feel if your kids don't want that to happen? So there is a clause in it. If they didn't want it, they could have me cremated. But my feeling is, well, I've coped with various illnesses, and if they could find out after I'm dead what was wrong and it helps somebody else, great.
Well, you never know, because it could help them.
Exactly, and that is
and it could help the children.
Get my brain out, have a look at it, find out what went wrong, and help somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the impact it would have on, it would be catastrophic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would. You can't, leaving children behind is.
Yeah, it just doesn't bear thinking about.
It really doesn't. And really, there's just me and my sister. Our dad's here, he's alive, but he's not present anymore. It's getting worse. So we've gone from this really tight unit of 4, mum, dad, me, Soph, to me and Soph managing. And I'm also 9 years older than her, and she's had to completely take a different role since I got poorly.
Yeah, she's had to grow up quick, hasn't she?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what I need to do.
She's got her head screwed on anyway.
Yeah, she's always been switched on. I mean, she's a bereavement counsellor, so we'll get her on. But yeah, I suppose that's the answer to the question. Is it's not one that you want to dwell on much, but
definitely not.
It is one I've thought about, and my affairs are in order. Seen anyone go through probate, and if you're listening to this particular section, get your will in order and don't fuck around so that people aren't picking up the pieces after you die.
Absolutely. So was mum cremated?
Yeah, she had no wish to be buried, and nor does my dad. I had a real funny thing about the funeral, though. I remember going and sitting in, like what are they called?
The waiting room
of the where you organise a funeral. And I thought, this is like going to the House of the Munsters. I just thought, this is the worst experience of my life. This is
so morbid, yeah.
It's so awful that me and my sister were like children, kicking each other under the desk in there, and he was talking about different coffins. I was thinking, fucking hell. Like, I mean, I've got a question you'll know the answer to, actually. I was like, I mean, do they even burn the people in the coffins? Do they?
I think so, yeah.
I thought they just went ahead, feet first into the furnace, I heard once.
So you'll be cremated, do you think?
Well, I will be eventually.
Not today.
After they've picked me apart at Birmingham.
So so donate your body and then cremation afterwards. What's left?
Yeah. I've been to both. I've been to a lot more cremations than I have burials. I found that to be a very horrifying experience. I did not like that. I thought, why would you be okay going away knowing
they're still there?
They're still there. No, didn't do anything for me. And in the ground. Oh no. Because I've got separation. So when somebody dies, for me, it is, you are left with the body. So the body for me, like I said earlier, is just organic matter, as anything else would be. It's sad that it looks like the person you love, but they're gone. They're gone. So that matter that is there is only the same as every autumn, all the leaves falling off the trees, going to mulch and growing something decent in the spring. It's part of the cycle, and I find that a great comfort, actually. So it makes sense to me to burn bodies.
Would you be happy for, like you said, you've got your body donated size, but there is a clause, so the kids, if they really didn't want it,
Yeah.
if when the time come in hundreds of years to come that the kids said, I don't want you cremated, mum, or I want to sprinkle you here, you happy for
Yeah, I'm
them to
fine with it.
choose
Yeah.
whatever's
Yeah.
poignant for them?
Yeah. I think, yeah, absolutely. I think, like I said earlier, once the person's gone, it only affects the people left behind. It doesn't bear any meaning to me. So when mum died, because really her death sentence, if you like, was relatively short, we couldn't have those types of conversations with her. We knew she wanted to be cremated, and that was that. But when it came to scattering her ashes, I remember going to my dad's, and there was what looked like the old Quality Street tubs with a purple plastic lid.
Yeah, they're not very
And
nice, are
he
they?
said, "Your mum's sat over there." He said it to me like
Quality
that.
Street tubs.
And I was like, "What?" And he goes, and I said, "What are you doing just leaving it
Say
there?"
hello to your mum.
Yeah, and he thought it was kind of funny, and I was like, "Oh no!" Then he tried to put her under the stairs, and I was like, "No, that's not going to work either."
She's like
So
Harry
I actually
Potter,
had
get her out.
I had a real thing about that, which really surprised me. I also, once she died, I never went back in and looked at her. I never went again. My sister did. She stayed, and I didn't.
And
And my sister said she wouldn't be able to, and I said I would.
did Soph regret doing that, do you think?
No, absolutely not.
That was right
Yeah,
for
it was
her.
right for her. I thought it would be the other way, and so did she. And I couldn't bear it. Couldn't.
Isn't that funny?
And I was absolutely certain I'd be fine with it.
I think you just have to, in those sorts of situations, you have to do what's right for you.
I think I'm like such a proactive person. So like if somebody now, I don't know, somebody came over and knocked the door and had a road traffic accident and broke their leg, I'd be straight on it. Like I can deal with stuff like that all day long. But I had no understanding of how I would react in that moment. I reacted in the complete opposite way.
And I think you don't until it happens.
Yeah.
I think you don't know how you're going to react until you're faced with it.
Yeah.
So I've got one last thing to ask you. Is there anything, and you have done a lot of things, is there anything that you have wished you would have done? Because you've done some amazing stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like on a personal level, there will be, but I suppose first and foremost, I'd have just been sad if I were to go sooner rather than later to not experience my children growing up, because I think our mum was robbed of watching us, and we were robbed of watching her, and she has never met my kids, and she won't meet Sophie's, and it's, that's really shitty. But I don't have any regrets at all because I've been very lucky. I've done some amazing things. I was always very sad that I never made it in my own right in music. So I had a lot of...
That's debatable because you've
yeah,
made it.
I mean, in my head, I was a superstar, rock star, right? And when that didn't happen, and I'm very lucky, very fortunate, and I'm very aware that I have to be careful about how I say things because I can sound spoiled or whatever. But in my head, it was never good enough unless it was mine. It was never good enough. And because I'm very self-deprecating in that way, that would be probably the thing. I'd probably go back and, I don't know, want some record companies or something.
Yeah, so why didn't you sign me?
You bastards, honestly. I was really good. I was better than anyone you had at the time.
Yeah. It was lovely to talk to you about this subject today. Yeah. And I'm hoping that we're going to do a lot more talking.
Yeah. And
because we're going to start a little series together.
Yeah.
So it will be Carrie and Emma.
Yeah, I love that.
It's a death sentence.
Yeah.
So the listeners can look forward to hearing us chat about this sort of stuff a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it will probably be a little bit inappropriate and have some laughs. But we are very caring and sensitive
as humans.
To lots of people. Yeah. It's just,
it's just
death can be funny.
Yeah. And I think people need to be all right with it.
Yeah.
Really do. Because if you haven't got humour and you lose somebody, you are going to lose yourself really quick.
Never a wiser word said.
Thanks.
So thank you, dear listeners. If you've enjoyed our show, then please do all the stuff that will help promote us.
Like and share our podcast and follow us on socials, and please subscribe too. If you've got any feedback, it's most welcome, so please contact us.
Likewise, if there's a subject you'd like us to cover, please do get in touch, and thank you for your support.
We are dying to talk to you.